Once a giant, always a giant. For me, it's only a giant.
What's going on, YouTube? Diggy546 back at it again from the dumpster fire. And you know, where there's smoke, there's fire. I believe that all of these things in the offseason are usually some kind of smoke, some kind of draft strategy or free agent strategy, but sometimes there is some truth to it. Now, that's one thing that Joe Schoen has been pretty good at, actually, since he's been here, is completely throwing off the media to where you don't know what he's doing. So if this is if this is the truth this time, and this means that the Giants are either trading up to one to take Cam Ward, or they're just sitting there and taking a pick, or they're just trading back. So that would mean, like, that's what we haven't seen yet from the media. But we saw some more reports that came out today that said that the Giants were interested in Shedeur Sanders. He's their quarterback one. He's the guy that they want. With them sitting at 3, and with more and more news coming out at 3, I'm thinking that there's a good shot that Shedeur Sanders could make it there, especially since we keep saying it. We keep seeing that Deion Sanders does not want Shedeur Sanders to play for the Browns. The Browns are at 2. The Browns aren't going to be able to take Shedeur Sanders. So moving on from that, we've already talked that all kinds of circles. We've already talked about that. The biggest thing that I saw that popped out is the Giants could be interested in Derek Carr. Now, I made a video last week talking about Geno Smith and talking about how Geno Smith could possibly be a trade target for the Giants because I thought his cap number will be a solid cap number. He will be finished after this year because his contract expires after this upcoming year. And that could be an area where the Giants look to explore to get a vet quarterback in here that you could win games with, that Dable can't say, oh, he's not a good quarterback, because we've seen him play good football the past 2 or 3 years. But Derek Carr is another guy who's a proven good quarterback. Now, has he been as good as he was at the beginning of his career? No, he hasn't really been. He's had some downs. He's had some kind of moments where he's kind of come up short. He had that whole thing where Devontae Adams came to the Raiders, and then he ends up getting traded to the Saints. So he's got a lot of baggage, but at the end of the day, his career stats are 65% completion percentage, 41,000 yards, 257 touchdowns, 112 interceptions. So better than the 2-to-1 ratio there, and a 92 quarterback rating. So he's been a good quarterback more often than not. I could say those are top 20 quarterback numbers, which for the Giants will be amazing if we get a top 20 quarterback in here. And I think he has the potential to even be better than that. So he's had 7 seasons where he's thrown for over 3,800 yards. And his last 3 seasons have been 24 touchdowns, 14 interceptions, 25 touchdowns, 8 interceptions. And then this past year, 15 touchdowns and 5 interceptions. And we know that he didn't finish this year. So it was probably looking at another 22 or 25 touchdowns and about 8 to 10 interceptions. So he's been efficient. And if Brian Dable is the quarterback whisperer, if he's the guy, the offensive mastermind, the genius that we think he is, or that we at least thought he was, then he should be able to get similar numbers out of Derek Carr, which would be better than what we got out of Daniel Jones his entire tenure here. I think that Dable, if he is the guy that he claims to be and that we claimed him to be in the past, Derek Carr should be able to hit 28 touchdowns, 12 interceptions, and the Giants offense should be productive. He's got Malik Neighbors here. He's going to have Wan'Dale Robinson, who I've had a love-hate relationship with. Wan'Dale continues to average like 4 yards per catch. And it's partially not his fault, but it partially is his fault. Consistently doesn't get enough depth, has a lot of issues there, can't really high point the ball, can't really go get the ball when it's in the air because his catch radius is so small, but he does have value in a certain position. And that position is slot receiver. Put the ball on him accurately, and he can catch the ball and he can do a little stuff after it, as we saw, I think, in the second to last game where we put up 40 points. So Wan'Dale does have that kind of potential. So he could be a receiver. You also have another guy that we can take in the draft. It's pretty much all but confirmed that Darius Slayton is not going to be a Giant next year. He's not going to be a Giant next year. He was a Daniel Jones stan. He was a Daniel Jones fanboy. He was a friend of him. And in reality, Darius Slayton, once Daniel Jones left, saw no need to come back to the Giants to lose, and not even lose with his friends here. Sterling Shepard's gone. Daniel Jones is gone. Saquon Barkley's gone. He doesn't even get to lose with his friends anymore. So why not go to a better team where you can take probably more money than the Giants will pay you, and go be a wide receiver too somewhere. Go have the best year of your career, or at least try to. And I don't think Darius Slayton is going to be back. And I'll probably make a video about the shortcomings that happened because we decided not to bring back Darius Slayton and not to bring back Azeez when we could have traded him. But essentially, back to Derek Carr. Derek Carr is going to have what I think is going to be a good wide receiver core. He's going to have what everybody told me is a good offensive mind in Brian Dable. And I think Derek Carr would be an interesting path to go down. Now, he is 33 years old, so he's not a young guy. He's not like a guy that's going to be here the next 10 years. I don't see him being a guy that plays until Tom Brady retired. But his contract is the big hit. That's the big thing here, because if we trade for him, we're going to have to give up compensation. I'm imagining that compensation is going to be little to none because we'd be taking on a good amount of his contract. So I'm expecting that compensation to be a 5th round pick, 4th round pick at the most. Because he's not a guy that, is going to, from other teams' perspective, really move the needle. I don't see him being a guy that even goes for a 2nd round pick. Now, his contract next year is $51 million. That's his cap hit next year. And the Raiders are going to have to absorb some of that cap hit if they want to trade him, because the Giants don't even have $51 million in cap space. Now, if they make some moves, they can be up at 60, 65. But I just don't see them paying Derek Carr $51 million next year. So doing a little research, having to use ChatGPT, trying to figure out what happens with the cap when people get traded. If everything goes the way it normally goes, there's a whole thing about bonus money and guaranteed money and everything like that. Anyway, if everything goes the way that it usually goes, and there's no extra, absorption of his cap from the Raiders, or not the Raiders, from the Saints. And I hope I've been saying the Raiders all this time, the Saints. If it's not from the Saints, then his cap hit for 2025 will be $40 million. So that is a large cap hit. We just paid a guy $40 million a year. And I think we get better production out of Derek Carr than Daniel Jones, but do we really want to pay him $40 million a year? And then for 2026, if you wanted to say, you drafted a rookie, but let's give him a little bit more time, Derek Carr's cap hit will be $50 million. And that to me isn't the best. That to me really isn't the best, because $50 million is $50 million. No matter what the other quarterbacks in the league will be getting paid, I don't see the Giants at any point paying Derek Carr $50 million. So his dead cap for 2026 will be $11 million. So I could very well see a restructure there, a restructure of some kind, or something that just lowers that number, whether it's just be a restructure because, listen, we're going to cut you, and that's just that. Or is just, completely releasing them. So there are a couple of options that we could explore in 2026. But it's looking like for 2025, if the Raiders decide to be nice and absorb some stuff in negotiations, we're probably going to be paying Derek Carr somewhere between $30 to $40 million, which I don't think is horrible. But it depends on what the compensation is. Again, I would expect that to be minimal. But I think Derek Carr, here with a guy like Malik Neighbors, with a guy like Wan'Dale Robinson, hopefully we get another wide receiver in the top 3 rounds, in the top 4 rounds even, to be just a wide receiver 2 or wide receiver 3 or better, because we don't know what we're going to get from Hyatt. I really think that we can make something happen with that. And if we were to take a guy like Derek Carr, he has been in the league for so long at this point. He wants to be a starter, of course, but he's been in the league for so long. He is going to help whatever quarterback we get. So if it's a Shedeur Sanders, if it's a Cam Ward, Derek Carr is going to be there to help him. I think they're going to learn a lot, even if this, in reality, you want your quarterback to be on the team. You want your future quarterback to be on a team where they have a vet there that's playing really well and you go to the playoffs. You want that because that's winning football that they're learning how to play. So if Derek Carr got here and took us to the playoffs and had a good year, then guess what? Shedeur Sanders or Cam Ward or Jackson Dart or Jalen Milroe, they're going to know what it takes to prepare to play as a quarterback that took his team to the playoffs, which is going to be difficult next year because the schedule is a gauntlet. But Derek Carr is, in my opinion, another option that I think the Giants should definitely explore. I think he's a good player. I think he's had a little bit of struggles, but I think overall he's been a good player in the NFL. Not great, but a good player. And the Giants could definitely use a good player at quarterback because we haven't seen that in years, in a very long time. So you all let me know what you're thinking of Derek Carr to the Giants and a trade this offseason. I don't think that rules out us taking a quarterback high at all. But let me know what you're thinking down in the comments.